Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to TWitWoW 500 and your NXT review.
Yeah.
This was a freaking reasonable show. I enjoyed this show. What do you think, John? Did you like this show? I like this show.
I was surprised you introed us. I had my intro already, but yeah, regaining my space. Yeah, this was a good NXT.
I thought that you weren't doing the intro because when the thing went live, I was like, okay, he's gonna do the intro, and then you didn't, and I guess I panicked, so I went into it.
I was
apologies, and plus,
yeah.
I don't think you knew that this is TWitWoW 500, and I wanted to get that in too. So if you want, you can go into your intro now, brother.
Well, no, you know what? The moment's gone, but I mean, I don't blame you. I mean, it was a great intro. But yeah, to answer your question, it was a fine go-home show. No qualms with it. I feel like every kind of narrative beat they needed to hit for the big matches, they did. I like that the NXT Women's Championship match got spotlighted to close the show. And all around, as far as go-home shows are concerned, considering everything that we've gotten this week, this is a good effort by NXT for sure.
Yeah, I mean, let's be real. Most of this show was dedicated to just hyping up TakeOver, which is literally in 3 days. But what they did that was original content that did progress storylines, I thought was enjoyable. I actually quite liked it.
Absolutely, man. So do you want to just get right into the show here, get into the gritty details of it all?
You know what? That sounds good to me. It was a relatively quick show. It ended at 8:52, so it was only 52 minutes. And I would say probably around 20 minutes of that was hype video packages for TakeOver at San Antonio. But we did start with a match. We had 3 original matches tonight. All 3 of them were relatively quick. But first match was Ember Moon versus Liv Morgan. And I didn't really have any big qualms about this match. And I just realized we didn't even attempt to do Heat of the Night. So this is just a completely off-the-wall, random, no structure needed version of TwitWoW. But yeah, Ember, I feel like Ember should have been more dominant against Liv Morgan. I wish NXT would kind of acknowledge that Ember, Nikki, Peyton, and Billy are all just a level or 2 above every other non-Asuka female in NXT. But at the end of the day, it was a shorter match, and Ember did win, so I shouldn't be complaining too much.
You know, and I'll never complain when it's a longer match because I always look at it as an exhibition of the division. And you really got to see what Ember Moon kind of brings to the table. I like the cradle spot at the beginning. I liked Ember displaying her power. And then, of course, the full eclipse. That top rope stunner, I think, is one of the best finishers in the game today, male or female. I think it's got a great aesthetic to it. And the impact, to me, is completely believable. Ember Moon continues to roll on. I'm just waiting for her to face Asuka. And if that is the takeover at WrestleMania weekend, that's going to be an NXT Women's Championship match that's got me just licking my lips in anticipation because that's going to be amazing. But this Fatal 4-Way, though, with how they've built it, I think that could get the NXT Women's Championship back on track, too, as far as quality matches go. But Ember Moon, Asuka, that's the marquee match I'm waiting for.
Yeah, man. Ember Moon versus Asuka, but before we get to that, we've got this big 4-way women's match coming up at TakeOver on Saturday. We will be talking about that on Preview and Predictions, and we'll be talking about a big segment involving all 4 of the women in that match tonight as our main event. But until then, Ember Moon picks up the win via, I believe you said, total eclipse.
Full eclipse. I heard commentary say it tonight.
Okay, she wins via full eclipse, and then we get into an Andrade Cien Almas interview where I believe the interviewer told him that, I don't even remember, she told him something about Roderick Strong, and then he said, I'm going to kick Roderick Strong in the face the next time I see him.
Yeah, and then Roddy interrupts, says, you know, I'm not a hard guy to find, so if you want to kick me in the face, how about you try doing it right now? And then Andrade seemingly walks off, and then Roderick starts telling Dasha, like, oh, see, that's what I was talking about. And then Andrade...
It wasn't Dasha. If it was Dasha, I would have said Dasha. Dasha's the ring announcer now. They use random women backstage. It's not even Andrea DeMarco or Charlie Caruso. I don't know who it is.
I apologize, but regardless, he tells her, see, that's what I'm talking about. Andrade ambushes Roddy, and then he does kick him in the face, and he's talking trash in a language I can barely understand because I can barely even English, and then Andrade walks off. That said, this is probably one of the matches I'm looking forward to most on the TakeOver card, if not the match I'm looking forward to the most. I think you've got 2 of the best workers in the game right now. I'm really hoping 2017 is Andrade's year in NXT. Not feeling too confident about that, but we'll get into the real specifics of that tomorrow with our NXT TakeOver San Antonio preview and predictions. So, you know, you want it, you got to wait for it, folks. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to this match, and this is good build here for Andrade.
Precisely. We had a lot of video packages tonight, and we're just going to skip right over those video packages for the exclusive reason being that it's something we're going to address tomorrow because preview predictions is tomorrow. We have two separate videos. Today, we're talking about this episode of NXT and specifically any new content we got on the show. Tomorrow night is dedicated to TakeOver. Just wanted to let you guys know. And then Friday we have Q&A. I don't have any idea how many questions we have on that, but I know it's a hell of a lot less than we've had in the last couple of months. So up next, we had our second match of the night, which is No Way Jose versus your boy, Kona Reeves. I don't know why I called him your boy, but he just kind of seems like the kind of guy that would appreciate that. I enjoyed Kona Reeves' heel psychology here, although it helps that Jose is super lovable. But at the end of the day, as expected, Jose does win with that pop-up knockout punch.
Yeah, which honestly, I love so much more than Reigns' Superman punch. So crazy world we live in. But yeah, only thing I really want to say of any kind of substance about Kona Reeves, I agree with you about the heel psychology. You know, I see something in him, a germ of promise, if you will, which is why he's in the right place. Because to me, NXT will always be developmental first, a brand second. And you know, I like the surfboard spot that he did, because even if what he does, whether it hits or it misses, I like that he's at least knowledgeable of the fact I've got a full environment here. Let me try and work with it. Let me try and get as much from it as I can. Not everything he does will be a hit for sure, but I like that he's thinking about it, because I think that says more than most people. So that is one thing I will say positively in his direction. But yeah, it really is all about No Way Jose. He's got the momentum. He got the win. And really, I think the post-match is of greater interest here, because I know you were reacting to this.
Yeah, because Elias Samson came out and started singing a little ditty about No Way Jose and how much of a shame it is that he is such a puppet and how painful the strings must be to him. But then Jose cuts him off and tells him the song sucks. I love both of these guys, and I really hope they get a match on TakeOver San Antonio, but I'm guessing they're going to have one of those kind of weird matches where like they have an hour either before or after TakeOver San Antonio where they film matches, and then that ends up airing the week after TakeOver.
You're probably right. That said, though, I do love the idea of this feud, because I feel like Elias Samson is the perfect foil for No Way Jose. You know, because like they've both got those big personalities, but they're in such opposite directions. And then you bring them together. Like, to me, this is the type of undercard feud that whether you have the heel win or the babyface win, depending on the alignment of your champion, the winner of that undercard feud could go on and challenge the champion. Like, I just feel like this is perfect table setting for either of these guys, where whoever really comes out ahead could make a big move going forward. And really, I have similar sentiments about the Andrade Roderick feud. Probably more so there, if I'm being honest. But yeah, I think this is a feud that's going to be great for both No Way Jose and Elias, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. So yeah, that whole thing, I really wish these guys would have had more build than just this one segment, but even just this segment was awesome. It's funny because my mom never watches NXT, but she watched with me tonight, and she specifically said, if Jose versus Samson happens at TakeOver, she's watching TakeOver.
Yeah. I mean, I don't blame her. I mean, I know she likes Elias. A lot of women in the audience do seem to like Elias, at least at times. This crowd, I really didn't seem to want any part of him. In fact, that's Jose really had him in the palm of his hands with the whole like just drift away a little bit, which was great. But yeah, I mean, you know, I think these are two very promising, very talented undercard guys. And the idea that they're working together, I really want this to be a feud where both guys get elevated, and the winner specifically can start jockeying themselves for an NXT championship match in the future. I'm not saying at the next TakeOver, maybe even the TakeOver like after next, but yeah, definitely start building that foundation for it. And I think this feud could be a central building block for both guys.
As nice as that would be, I don't think either one of these guys is ever going to win the NXT championship.
I think Jose might. I think Jose might. Elias, I have no faith in.
Jose will get called up. I could see Jose getting called up to Raw after Mania this year. There's no way he's going to win the NXT title before they decide to call him up.
You know what, brother? Anymore with WWE, I don't like to say, oh, there's no way, or oh, this is definitely happening. I'd really like to stay away from like absolute affirmations because WWE has just dispirited me so many times. But I mean, the only positive thing about No Way Jose staying down here is I do think he could possibly get an NXT championship run. I think he's got all the charisma, all the tools, and I know you do as well because you were saying it before I was. And yeah, he'd be great.
Yeah. Okay. So after this whole interaction with Jose and Samson, we get our third match of the night. Chris Atkins, I think is his name. It was really,
Yeah.
the quality on the network had a hard dip when I was watching this. But I think that's what it was, Atkins. But he was going against Eric Young, so it was a squash match anyway. He hits a top of elbow, wheelbarrow neck breaker, pin.
Yeah, only two really substantive remarks I want to make about this. One, I like the little bit in this match where Young is punching Atkins in the corner and he does the 10, kind of to mock Ty Dillinger after every punch. So punch 10, punch 10, and I like that as a little nod to their feud, which we also got in the post match. We'll get to that in a second. And two, I mean, yeah, you're absolutely right calling it a squash match, but I was actually pleasantly surprised by that because they've made the idea of sanity, like, oh, strength in numbers, like the big thing. I was glad to see Eric Young handle his business because, yes, Chris Atkins is a rookie, and yes, Eric Young has had over a decade in this business. But again, you never really know if NXT is going to be like, oh, is Eric Young totally dependent on sanity? Like we've seen Bray Wyatt and the Wyatts until recently. That was kind of their MO. So I was glad to see Eric Young handle his business himself. And yeah, solid match to move forward to TakeOver.
Yeah, and it also kind of puts into context that the idea that Jose actually fared really well against Eric Young comparatively.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. That's an excellent point.
So I can appreciate that. Up next, we got the kind of post-match promo from EY talking about choices and that Ty Dillinger made the wrong one. Damo hits a senton on Atkins to kind of reaffirm that he is a big, giant, dominant force. But all I noticed was that they seriously need to put a goddamn singlet on this dude. His body is awful.
Right. Yeah, I don't really know what to do. I mean, I agree with you. I think a singlet would be nice, but I guess it's out of our hands. But yeah, I agree. A change-up is definitely needed.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have a problem with big guys and overweight guys and fat guys in the wrestling business, but when you look through history, the big guys and the fat guys wear singlets because it's just gross.
I mean, and yeah, that's my thing. Like, now I never liked the guy. Everybody here like Scum Squad and everybody knows it. But you gave ZZ such shit like on Tough Enough and then on Breaking Ground, like, oh, you got to lose that weight, you got to get in shape. When Big Damo was like this really, really big dude. And yeah, like put a singlet on him or something. Because aesthetically, you're right. It doesn't work. And it doesn't even have like the way Big Show looks. And I'm talking about even before he got like shredded. They put a singlet on him. And even then, I feel like when he puts the straps on and stuff, he doesn't look bad. He keeps the imposing mystique.
Yeah, really. I mean, even if you would put Damo in like fight shorts like Joe wears, it would be a good improvement. But I think like the pale skin with the dark hair, it just makes for a really unpleasing aesthetic.
I agree. I agree wholeheartedly. We'll see if they change it up because I know with people like that, because what's he called now? Killian Dave, Big Damo. What's his actual name?
Clue. I have no idea.
I think it was Killian Dave. I'm confident about the Killian. I'm not so sure about the last name.
I feel like the Killian part is actually even familiar to me. Because this was like this announcement came out at the same time that we found out that Tommy End was going to be Aleister Black.
Right, which I love that name. That's a name I think they got right. I can't wait to see him on NXT. But yeah, I mean,
Killian Dane. Killian Dane. It's Dain. Dane.
Okay, I wasn't close, but regardless.
No, you were close. Dave and Dane totally rhyme. You're really close there. Good guess.
But yeah, I mean, I agree with you. Hopefully they do some fine tuning with him, as I know they've done with certain NXT acts in the past. Because I mean, he does have an interesting look, a look that I think could go somewhere. You just got to know how to maximize it, and yeah, maximizing it isn't having it all hang out, literally and figuratively in his case. Again, put a singlet on it, put something on it. And yeah, just let him go out and do his thing. I like the senton he did. I mean, that looked devastating, but yeah, the aesthetic definitely needs some tuning up.
You know, honestly, given that those guys both got their name around the same time, I wouldn't even be surprised if they added Tommy into Sanity, and it would be really nice too, because then he and Killian Dane could go after the NXT tag titles.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that would be very interesting for the
That
tag
way you
division.
still have Alexander Wolf as kind of the jobber of the group. Eric Young is the main eventer, Nikki is the female. Like, that would be a really strong dynamic, I think.
And it would continue that trend of like, oh, look at this dominant tag team. But I think they've got a greater flavor going on than Authors of Pain. And I don't even say that to be overly critical. You know, Authors of Pain have grown on me. It took a few steps back with that whole injury scare that they caused that one guy. But, you know, I'm still sweet on the guys. It's just I really do like you know, Sanity's whole aesthetic. Again, change up Big Damo a little bit, Killian Dane.
Yeah.
And I loved when Wolf and Fulton were a team. I was really digging those guys. I'm still kind of upset about Fulton's departure, to be honest, because I really thought him and Wolf were going to do some magic together. But yeah, maybe Wolf and Dane could really get something going.
Yeah, so the other thing too that I wanted to bring up regarding our NXT Takeover preview predictions that we're going to be doing on tomorrow.
Thursday,
Good
yeah,
Lord,
tomorrow.
I can't keep this shit straight. Yeah, preview predictions tomorrow. I think it's going to be a lot more interesting than the Rumble preview predictions, because I think we're going to have a lot more interesting discussions, because even right now, I have no clue who I'm picking for most of the matches at TakeOver.
I started formulating some of my picks, which I'm going to keep mum here because, again, you got to wait for it. But, you know, when we're watching NXT tonight, I'm like, you know what? With the way that went down, I could really see this or this. Now, I might change my mind when we go to recording time because, believe me, I have done that a lot. I'll be like, yeah, I can't wait to talk about these picks. And then it's like 7:30 and I'm like, oh, shit, I don't know anything anymore. Why was I so stupid? Why would I think this? My God, you know, what's wrong with me? But, yeah, I mean, this is a card that I think is more volatile than the Rumble card. Because here's the thing about the Rumble card, dude. And it's one of the things that I actually find attractive about it. So, again, I'm not knocking it. But the cards are much smaller because the Royal Rumble match itself takes up so much of the show. So, you know, there's not really too much to think about. But with TakeOver, you've got a fully fleshed out card here. And you're just thinking, like, man, what direction could they go? Even in terms of, like, who's going to beat who, like, as far as the Fatal 4-Way is concerned, like, who's going to be protected, who's going to eat the loss, you know, all that stuff. It's a lot to sort through. So I think, yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly. We're going to have a lot of interesting discussions tomorrow. I can't wait for it.
Yeah, for sure. Because a lot of the titles that are up for grabs are either on somebody that I think they might be calling up soon, or on somebody that I think they might want to get the title off of, or on somebody where it feels like they're out of contenders on the opposite alignment, so they need to put it on the other person, or, you know, like, it's pretty much all three of the main championship matches to me are a coin flip. I'm really struggling to pick those matches.
Yeah, and the one where I'm struggling the most, because I really, in light of recent events, and again, I'm gonna stay as cryptic as possible. I have made some revisions, but I'm still really struggling with the main event. That's probably where my struggle is at peak intensity.
Oh, really? See, and I think the one I'm struggling the most with is actually the tag title match, because AOP has just been so dominant and they're undefeated. But at the same time, I feel like TM61 being injured really kind of hurt the chances of AOP getting the titles, because I feel like TM61 was going to be like the main program for them after they get past DIY.
Right, because of all the history the two teams share, which you yourself noted at the last TakeOver. I mean, I totally get that, man. And like me, because of the facts that you just noted, I think I was able to make a determination for me, like what kind of weighed out what. But I haven't been able to do that yet with the main event. Because, you know, and it's just been really, really difficult.
Well, yeah, because, I mean, Nakamura has been in the main event scene for like 5 months at this point, and he's a 2-time champion, but you never know when they're going to decide to call him up. Because if they want to use him at WrestleMania, they've got to call him up now so that they can have him for the entire road to WrestleMania, at which point you would also expect them to have him debut either at the Rumble or like one of the two shows immediately following Rumble, whether it be Raw or SmackDown. On that same note, though, Bobby Roode is super hot. Yeah, like it's a really tough call for that match, but I think I'm more confident in my pick for that match than either one of the other two championship matches. Like the women's four-way really comes down to whether you believe they're going to call up Asuka anytime soon or not. Because if you're convinced that she's staying in NXT until at least WrestleMania, it becomes relatively easy to be able to pick her. But then again, you've also got to think, like, why would they put them in this multiple person match if it wasn't for the sake of getting the title off Asuka without having her get pinned, right?
I mean, your logic is sound on that, and logically, I really can't combat that, but I do think, given that the challenge you presented, as far as like it being centered around Asuka, I made my peace with it. Like, if I had to make a hierarchy of the championship matches that I have difficulty with, the women's championship match to me is actually the easiest. Then the tag title match is the second hardest, and then the main event for me is the hardest. That's really how the hierarchy goes. And then when you look at the more general matches, I do struggle with, to be honest, Andrade versus Roderick Strong, but maybe that's because my bias is clouding my judgment. And I even struggle a little bit with Dillinger and Young. So, I mean, if there's anything I have to give NXT credit for, it's that they've really made a card that's made me unsure of myself. And I think more often than not, that translates into a fun show. So, you know, kudos to them for that.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Teasing and previewing our own preview and predictions for tomorrow. Let's move on. Up next, we already kind of did briefly discuss that Shane Thorne had to get surgery. He had a torn ACL and a lateral meniscus tear. Out 7 to 9 months. Horrible that he got legitimately injured. That's such a shame, but all I can hope for is that TM61 have a huge return at TakeOver Brooklyn 3. That would make me so happy, but again, I can't emphasize enough. This is why when you hire a team or a single star who knows what they're doing immediately, you don't keep them in NXT longer than you need to. This guy and Miller should have been on the main roster for the last 6 months minimum, and they would have made either one of the tag team divisions infinitely better by just existing in it. Whether they were getting booked like freaking Breezango or the New Day, it didn't matter. They're talented. They have every tool you want in a professional wrestler. They know how to work television. Why were they not on TV this whole time, taking bumps where it freaking matters and not getting worked over in NXT and getting injured in NXT?
Brother, I mean, I completely agree with you. I'm not even going to bother to add anything to that rant because I'll get worked up again because I always think about Hideo and those other lost souls, and I'm not looking to get worked up, but I do agree with you.
And Hideo's another guy. Hideo was supposed to be back by the freaking Osaka show, and he's still not back.
Don't remind me. I agree with you, but I am so pissed about this.
You know what would be really smart is if they debuted Hideo at the freaking Rumble so that he didn't have to continue working in NXT with guys like Riddick Moss.
And maybe they will. I doubt it, but I mean, I am expecting some cool surprise entrance for the Rumble. As far as Shane Thorne's concerned, I do wish him a speedy recovery. I only laugh at injuries when they're kayfabe, like Big Cass. This is no laughing matter. You're talking about a very, very talented guy. All that I can hope for is that Nick Miller is able to hold down the fort. Maybe him and Scott Dawson and Dash Wilder can do something. I mean, Scott Dawson used to work singles, so maybe they could do that for a little bit, but then maybe Nick Miller tries to go after the NXT title and somebody else kind of snuffs that attempt. I just hope they could keep Nick Miller above water is my point. I don't want him to be forgotten about something because Shane Thorne, unfortunately, you know, had got befallen with this. So we'll see what happens, but yeah, speedy recovery to Shane Thorne for sure.
Yeah, dude. I just think it's a huge shame that we are only averaging like one NXT star debuting at the Rumble per year, every year for like 4 or 5 years now.
Yeah, it really does suck. And I think we both know where that ship is going this year.
So that might even cross out Ty Dillinger as an option.
That's true. That's true. Hey, with Ty Dillinger, I can tell you, and this won't be spoiling our preview predictions for tomorrow, I do think they're keeping him for the long haul. So, like, I'm already envisioning an NXT future like the next 7-8 months, if not like a whole calendar year, you know, with Ty Dillinger on the NXT brand. So, I mean, we'll see what happens. But yeah, because I agree with you. I think the Rumble chip, it's definitely going to Joe this year, and deservedly so. I mean, no qualms about it. It's just, it goes back to that.
And especially because he was just completely unheard of since he lost the title back to Nakamura in wherever it was. I think Osaka.
Right, right. But really, it does go back to that problem that you illustrated. Like, it's only one NXT star at a
Yeah.
time. Like, how cool would
Yeah.
it be if it was like two or three and they know
Yeah,
each
because
other
like, I
and
feel
they're
like
just
on
like,
average we're getting one NXT debut at Rumble every year, and then like two or three on the Raw after Mania, and maybe like two others throughout the year at any point. But it's the number, even if the number is like 6 or 7, that's still like 3 or 4 too low on a yearly basis.
I agree. I agree. I think they need to speed up production a little bit in terms of like, all right, call these guys up. But then again, I wish WWE, because I don't know what happened, but there was a time, remember when NXT, like we were still covering it on TWitWoW. This was like our Podbean days and stuff like that, and the whole thing was, oh, we won't call anybody up unless we have something for them. Like, I don't know
Yeah.
what that speaks worse of, like NXT, not NXT creative, main roster creative, or just NXT, the whole performance center, which is kind of a production facility of Stardom.
But at the same time, though, the idea of calling people up only when you feel like you have something for them was proven false this past year, because they had nothing for Apollo, they had nothing
Yeah.
for the Vaudevillains, they had nothing for Corbin other than win the armbar and we'll take it from there. So they're clearly not prepared for these people when they get called up. And now, like, if you want to try and use that as an excuse, well, why are you not giving spots to NXT performers instead of less talented main roster performers?
Oh, I completely agree with you. And I think it's a sad
Think of it
case.
this way: if WWE insisted on using a muscled up black guy in the Titus O'Neil role that he's been in the last few weeks trying to get into the New Day, why couldn't they wait until like a month ago to debut Apollo and use him in that role? Considering the fact that he was called up too early anyway, that would have been perfect.
Yeah, and see, that's another problem. Like everything you just said, you had Apollo who was called up too early. Vaudevillains were really like staples in NXT by the time they left, but there was nothing waiting for them on the main roster. So the
I
whole
hate to
process is,
say it because I was never really a big fan of the Vaudevillains, but the Vaudevillains would make the NXT tag division a hell of a lot more interesting right now.
I love them in NXT. Do you know how much I miss like just being a fan of theirs because they're no longer on my TV or they're jobbing out to everybody and their mother? Like I like
Yeah,
those guys. I know you weren't a
they
big.
they got double eliminated by Mojo Rawley on Tuesday.
Jesus Christ, as if I needed any more reasons to take a cyanide pill. For fuck's sake. Like, it's not that hard. And look, I'm not saying that the Vaudevillains, greatest tag team of all time or whatever, but it's a nice act. And if you're not going to use them, do you realize the pop they'd get? Because Full Sail is so nostalgic, and it really is. Say what you will about the crowd, I certainly have, but it really does have that kind of like family kind of aura about it. If Vaudevillains came back, face or heel, the first chant they'd get would be welcome back. And then they'd work however they were going to work. It's a fucking
And the great
waste.
thing too is that they could be heel or face in NXT, but the main roster, I feel like, take a little bit longer to fully commit to a turn, unless you're the freaking Big Show or Alicia Fox. But those are the exceptions, not the rule. So the Vaudevillains have been heel since they debuted. They were great faces in NXT. I would say they were the best. They're at their best as faces in NXT, and they've never even had an opportunity to work face on the main roster. So yeah, the Ascension is another one, but we're not going to go down that rabbit hole. I just wanted to really kind of emphasize how inconsistent the WWE is as far as calling people up, because they say one minute, oh, we'll only call somebody up when we have something for them, but then not only do they not call people up who deserve to be called up and then back that up by the whole excuse of, well, we don't have anything for them on the main roster and we don't want them to get lost in the shuffle, but then they do what they did to Breeze and Cruz and the Vaudevillains and Corbin, etc., and the only person out of that entire group that has recovered from not having anything to do after getting called up is Corbin.
Right. Because Corbin's looking pretty good right now, but that is a rarity. And yeah man, it's a shame.
Look at Bo Dallas. They even tried to literally just pick up where he left off in NXT, but it didn't work, because the whole point, the reason he got over as a heel in NXT was because he was a face getting pushed way beyond his talent level, and the crowd resented him, and then he turned heel after he got the crowd to resent him as a face. But they brought him up immediately as a heel, and people weren't in on the shtick, so he didn't get over at all.
Right. Yeah, it's a shame, man. I hope they get their shit together because you know what? That's really what's sad. Because I look at a guy like Joe. Because again, it's no secret our Rumble predictions are already out. If anybody hasn't heard them, go check them out on the channel. It was a fun discussion. But we already, we're committed to the idea. Joe's debuting at the Rumble. You're going big time with Joe, and I love it because you're thinking he's gonna win. And my thing about that is like if they do that, great. But it's a shame when there's a talent that I really love like Joe, and I'm always so apprehensive when I hear main roster, because when you think guys like Nakamura, Joe, they should be able to go in and run the place. But to me, it's not a guarantee. Now, AJ landed on his feet far better than I thought he would. I can't believe he's WWE champion even still. But he didn't even go to NXT. And that's the thing. Like, he bypassed it. I feel like Nakamura and Joe should have been a similar case. The idea that they weren't, I hope WWE is able to get some mileage out of them, dude. The whole process to me, and I think what this conversation has illuminated, the whole process is a mess. Because no matter what angle you look at it from, it's just riddled with imperfections to me, and ones that I think really need to be smoothed out if we're going to keep talking about this kind of process in the next 5-10 years. It's just not sustainable to me right now. So
exactly. Okay, so that all stemmed from Shane Thorne getting injured in NXT, which is frustrating, but we already talked about it, so let's move on. Women's Championship match promo segment. Billie and Peyton come out first. They cut a solid heel promo talking about how we've already proven the damage that we're able to do to Asuka, and we kind of realize now we owe Nikki Cross a little bit of a beatdown as well. But then Nikki Cross comes out, no promo for her. Asuka gets announced, but then rather than coming down through the ramp, she just immediately comes out and jumps Billie and Peyton and then trash talks. And then they kind of have like that head-to-head, like forehead-to-forehead moment. Regal has to separate them, and then Billie and Peyton come in and attack the two of them from behind. But then Asuka and Nikki end up getting the upper hand, even though they were the ones that got attacked from behind. Not a big fan of that. But then just as Asuka and Nikki are about to throw hands, security come out to separate them. Asuka beats the living hell out of security, and then Nikki follows suit. Asuka ends up hitting Nikki and then gets dragged out of the ring by security, only for Nikki Cross to go up top, literally to the top turnbuckle, and do a crossbody to everyone, taking out Asuka and all the security guards that were trying to restrain her. And then the kind of closing moments of NXT were just the aftermath of that, and Billie and Peyton walking up the ramp looking horrified.
I'm going to do kind of a compliment sandwich for this segment where I name something good and something bad, then finish with something good.
Then compliment. I dig it.
Compliment. I love the energy from Asuka and Nikki Cross specifically. I thought they did great stuff together. And that whatever happens at TakeOver San Antonio, whatever the result, I don't think Nikki Cross and Asuka are going to be done with each other if, they're able to continue. Like, we don't know. We're going to talk about it in full tomorrow. But yeah, I loved the little teases we got. I loved Nikki Cross's crossbody. It was a bit confusing because I feel like Nikki Cross, doing something like that, that's more face-esque to me. And I feel like she is supposed to be a heel. But, for creating a moment, for creating an atmosphere, I thought it was nice. My critique would be, just as you said, I did not like that Billie and Peyton, who have been kind of the established tandem in this whole thing, who brought Asuka to tears because, they made her vulnerable. Well, them and Nikki Cross, but you get the idea. And they've been running roughshod over the division. They get punked out and they don't even reemerge. Like, honestly, dude, when I was watching this segment, I'm like, now Billie and Peyton pick the bones. Now Billie and Peyton pick the bone. And they never did.
Yeah, like, honestly, even if they weren't going to pick the bones in the sense that, like, they were going to go down the ramp and start kicking Asuka and Nikki while they were down, I think it would have been great if they would have gotten in the ring and posed, like, with one person between the two of them with one hand each on the title, and, like, they held the title up together. Like, we are going to be the champion, not either of you, because you two are going to basically cancel each other out and we're best friends.
And that brings me to my final compliment. I do love, because I feel like if you're always going to do it, save it for the match itself. I love that no tension was teased between Billie Kay and Peyton Royce in this segment. I like that they came in as a united front and they left a united front, because going into San Antonio and beyond, this tandem is worthwhile for this division. I like them. I think, they're good heels. And I think when we do have that fracture, which is going to come, because you've always said Peyton is the better babyface, right? Billie's the heel, Peyton's the babyface. Then you can do that program. I feel like we need to get as much mileage out of these two women together as we can, so that when they're separated, they can both fly pretty effortlessly. And I don't know who I'm more like uncomfortable about the prospect of flying right now, whether it's Billy or Peyton, because I really always get consistently good vibes from Billy. I think I just need to see more from Peyton, but I do like what I've seen. But yeah, just keep them together for as long as you can. That makes the feud more profitable for everybody involved in the long run. So I do like that they remained a united front. So yeah, on the whole, this segment does get a thumbs up for me. But man, like, you've got that heel tandem that's been legit, and you know they speak with such conviction on the mic, and yet they get punked out here by the champion who they already beat up and sent a message to, which started this whole thing in the first place. And Nikki Cross, who I guess you have to do protect a certain mystique, but wouldn't just beating her up make her even more enraged and exciting for the takeover event itself? I don't know. I just feel like they missed the boat on that there.
Yeah. Okay, so I believe, yeah, that was, we already said that the closing images of NXT were the two women on the floor and then Billy and Peyton staring at him in horror. So, John, do we want to move on to high spots and low shots?
We will. And I'll say my low shot is Kona Reeves. Because while it was cool that you got TV time and a match, I mean, first of all, you came to Jose with probably this.
Hey.
Yeah.
Like I said, man, I dug Kona Reeves' heel tactics tonight. I thought that he was intense, and I loved the little dance that he did where he kind of just used it as a distraction for Jose so he could get in close to get that shot in. The abdominal stretch was classic. I actually enjoyed some of his work, but yeah, he got his ass whooped.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed his work too, but I enjoy winners even more, and Kona was not a winner tonight. He got bitched out, he learned his place, and that's what happens. And I'm not even really big on Noah Jose. Like, seeing his leg get shattered so he couldn't dance probably made me laugh for at least 2 weeks, but that did not happen. So, yeah, Kona Reeves is my low shot. Way to get the job done there, kid.
Yeah, I suppose my low shot is gonna just gonna take the easy way out here and make it Chris Atkins, because yet again another guy who just flat out got his ass whipped.
Yeah, no qualms there. I'm gonna say my high spot. You know what? I'm actually gonna be a bit different. I'm gonna say my high spot's Nikki Cross, because I feel like for everything we got done saying about that segment, Nikki Cross is the only one to have a real moment in that segment with the crossbody on that massive bodies between security and Asuka. And I think that's what you got to do. I mean, we still have criticisms of Nikki Cross, and rightfully so, but I do like that she goes out there in that segment and she maximizes her minutes. And people, I think, are more fixated on her at this point than Asuka, who's the champion and has been the champion for close to a year. You know, she's really getting up to that point. I think they said 298 days tonight. So, you know, she's really getting to that point where she could turn that corner. But I feel like Nikki Cross definitely stole some of that limelight tonight, and it was good to see. So she'll be my high spot tonight.
Yeah, I think in my high spot, I got to go with No Way Jose. He won tonight. He got a solid promo. He got to make fun of Elias Samson, and he might have a match either at TakeOver or on the post-TakeOver episode of NXT with Samson, which I'm fully expecting him to win. I think NXT's perception of Samson is just a notch or two below their perception of Jose, so I'm expecting Jose to win that match when it does happen. Jose is my high spot. He had a great night tonight. He got to have fun. He got to have a few fiestas, and he got to win, and he got to trash talk. Just a complete and total package for No Way Jose as far as a good night goes tonight.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Again, no qualms there. With that said, brother, you can take us home here.
Here we go. Guys, step number one, if you would like to support the TWitWoW team, you have two major options, Patreon and Teespring. You can buy a t-shirt, you can buy a sticker, you can buy a mug. Go to teespring.com/stores/TWitWoW. And we have 7 different designs available, one of which is split between men and women. We also have a Patreon if you want to get us to review or live react to any wrestling show of your choosing. All you have to do is go to patreon.com/TWitWoW, look under our pricing information, and donate the required amount to get us to live react or review or both to any wrestling show of your choosing. We already have, I believe, 3 or 4 examples of these did shows up. We did a review of Halloween Havoc 97, Survivor Series 02. We did a Patreon requested live reaction to the final 3 matches of New Japan King of Pro Wrestling 2016. And just more recently, we reviewed Ring of Honor Final Battle 2016. So if you want to add to that list and you want us to live react or review and or both, then all you gotta do is check out patreon.com/TWitWoW. In other news, if you're interested in being able to have up-to-date information on when we upload or when we go live, go to twitter.com/apond404. That's APOND404 for my Twitter, or twitter.com/JOHN_TWitWoW for John's. I think it's so silly that I have to specify the H, but whatever, for John's Twitter. Or if you want, you can like our Facebook page. It's just facebook.com/TwitWoW, twitwow.reddit.com for our subreddit, where we do also share everything that we upload, or at least attempt to. But at the end of the day, the easiest way to make sure that you always know when we go live and when our videos get uploaded, just subscribe to the channel you're watching this video on right now, youtube.com/TwitWoW video. And if you are super eager to know as soon as we go live, click the little bell button after you subscribe. If you hit subscribe, a little bell will show up. Click that and then tick the little thing that says notify me on all activity on this channel. And you should get notifications to your smartphone when we go live. Channel now, everything that we do goes up on live streams. I'll be tweeting. We consistently tweet probably within 15, 10, or 5 minutes of a show starting, and then as the show starts, a tweet automatically gets sent out by YouTube. So that's how you guys can keep up with us. And of course, make sure you get your Q&A questions in. Q&A is on Friday. We have NXT TakeOver San Antonio preview predictions tomorrow, and then live reactions to NXT TakeOver San Antonio on Saturday and the Royal Rumble on Sunday, and then Monday Night Raw review Monday, SmackDown Live review Tuesday, and we are back on track. But don't expect an NXT review next week because it is immediately following a TakeOver, and we do not review NXT television within 4 weeks after a TakeOver has ended because they go on cruise control, so why should we give them our time of day? Anything I have left to say, John?
No, I think you covered all the bases, brother.
All right, hopefully you guys enjoyed our NXT review, and we will see you tomorrow for our NXT TakeOver San Antonio preview and predictions. Stay tuned.